is the end of yet another reading month, so that means it is time for me to yap about all of the books that I've read this month. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Madison and I'm very happy you're here. April was kind of an iffy reading month. It was kind of all over the place because I had 5 stars and I also had like 2.5 stars. So it has been very iffy. There's also been a few new releases. I read, I think, 3 of them in this month. Yes, I read 3 books that are new releases this month, and I'm going to get to talking about those. Let's get into all of the books that I read in the month of April. Starting off, I picked this up on a whim because Books with JB, she's on Instagram, Juliana, she read this book, and let me tell you, I was actually in Barnes & Noble. I pick up this book, don't even read the back of it, I just like the cover of it, and I walk out and I open Instagram and she's like raving about the book, so I was like, perfect. 5 motherfucking stars. I cannot get over this book and how much I loved this book, and I need the second one now. This is just a pure romantasy book. The best I could describe it is like a romantasy mixed with Bridgerton. That is like the best way I can describe it, and it is like the best book ever. If you don't know what this is about, this follows Rune and Gideon, and in the world that they live in, witches have actually been banished and killed. If you're a witch, you're gonna get murdered, basically. Rune has been able to hide her powers since she was little, and she actually is this thing called the Crimson Moth, which basically saves other witches. If they're about to be murdered, she like hops in and saves them. And Gideon is actually one of the lead people in the government who kills witches, and he actually starts courting her. So it is just the perfect high stakes romantasy. They're hiding things from each other, but you get the point of views, and oh my gosh, it is so good. If you have not read this book, I am actually begging you to read this book because this has been my favorite read of the year so far. Next up, the first new release that I read of this month was The Reappearance of Rachel Price. I rated this one a 3.5, which is actually my lowest rated book of a Holly Jackson book, which is actually kind of surprising because whenever I read the excerpt about what the book was about, I thought I was gonna really enjoy it, and I did enjoy it, but it just wasn't my favorite of Holly Jackson's books. If you don't know what The Reappearance of Rachel Price is about, it follows Belle, who has kind of lived in the shadow of her mother's disappearance all of her life. Her and her whole entire family start filming a documentary about Rachel's disappearance, and Belle was actually with her at the age of like 2 whenever Rachel was taken, and she just doesn't remember anything because she was still little. But Rachel magically reappears, and Belle, which is her daughter, just thinks that there's something off about her, and you go through the book figuring out the story about what actually happened. So the reason why I rated it so low in comparison to my other Holly Jackson books, I absolutely could not stand the main character, which is Belle, and you're in her point of view the whole entire time. I hated her. I just think, obviously writing is fiction and it's not everything is meant to be realistic, but if my mother disappeared whenever I was 2 years old and I don't remember anything about her and she magically reappears, I would not be trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with her and why, like, if she's shady. Like she's making her out to be shady in her head when the thing she's doing is even that shady. For example, she was missing for let's say 16 years. She keeps saying 15, and Belle's like, that's weird. She doesn't even know how long she was missing for. If you were held captive in a basement, would you know how long you were missing for? Like, no. So she was just like trying very hard the whole entire time to find something wrong with her mom. And I also listened to the audiobook for about half of it, and it makes it even worse. Like, the inner thoughts of this girl were insane, and she actually just needed to shut up half of the time. And yeah, I did not actually guess the plot twist at the end of this, which I usually never do in Holly Jackson books. She's really good at that, which is kind of surprising because she is a YA author. I always think that if I read like a YA thriller, I'm gonna be like, I know what's gonna happen. No, not in Holly Jackson's books. But yeah, I gave this one a 3.5 because Belle is the most annoying character I've ever read in my whole entire life. The next book that I picked up in the month of April, looking at it makes me want to cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, makes me actually feel every single emotion that I think my body is capable of feeling. I finally started reading the Boys of Tommen series. We're gonna just talk about all of those tabs that I have in here. Oh my god. Oh my god. Before I get into this, if you don't know what the Boys of Tommen series is, you've been living under a rock, but also it took me forever to start it, so I don't even blame you. Start it. If you have not started it, start it. Also, the floppiness of these books, amazing. If you don't know what Binding 13 is about. This one follows Johnny and Shannon, and this whole entire series is set in Thomond College, which is a boarding school in Ireland. Or is it a boarding school or is it just like a school? I don't know what the difference is. I guess it's just a high school. Thomond College, but it's called college. I don't know. I don't understand how Europe works. I don't know. Anyway, it takes place in Thomond College, which is high school. It's not actually college. And Johnny Kavanagh is like the star rugby player, and he's also training to go pro. Shannon is a girl who just transfers to Thomond College because she was getting so terribly bullied. Like, I'm talking like the worst bullying I've ever read about, heard of. Like, girls were cutting her hair, beating her up. It was terrible. She starts her life at Thomond College, and you just go through the relationship and their inner thoughts and how they just can't stay away from each other. And Johnny has a lot going on with himself, and Shannon has like the most terrible home life ever. So she's navigating that. I have been holding myself back from starting Keeping 13 because I want to make the series last as long as I can, and they are long stories. Like, whenever I tell you this book does not seem that thick, but the words are so tiny. I love them so much. I think about these characters every single day, and knowing that I have so many more books that I get to read makes me so giddy and excited. 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. If you have not read or started the Boys of Thomond series, please start it. You will not regret it. Next up, we have another new release of the month, and I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver, and I ended up giving this one a 4 star. I just love Elsie Silver's writing. I think a lot of people agree with me when I just feel like everything she writes is just going to be a good book. Now, her books are like typical romance books, but there's also a subplot of serious life, if that makes any sense. These characters are going through something, and she just makes them very relatable. Her descriptions of her characters aren't just like, oh, she's sad, she had like a rough life. Like, she goes into detail with her characters. And this actually follows Ford, who is Willa from the second book in Chestnut Springs, her brother. So this follows him and Rosie, which is his best friend's little sister. And she actually gets fired from her job, moves back to Rose Hill, which is where this new series takes place, and Ford hires her to work for him. And they sit together literally at their desk across from each other every single day and send emails back and forth, and it is the cutest thing ever. They've known each other since childhood because Ford and Rosie's brother are best friends. So that's that. So the next book is West and his love interest, and I'm very excited because I really liked West in this. But again, Elsie Silver, in my opinion, doesn't write a bad book. She physically, I don't think, can write a bad book. I really want to read her first series, which is between Chestnut Springs, which is before Chestnut Springs. So it goes I think, Gold Rush Ranch series, which is her first series, and then the Chestnut Springs series, and then this is the first book of the Rose Hill series. I really want to read her first series because I have not. I think that's something we're going to do this summer because her books are just so summery and I love them. Next, I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry in order to prepare for a funny story. This was the last book of Emily Henry's that I had to read, and I gave this a 2.75. Now that I have had some time to sit on it, I think I want to give it like a 2.5. I did not like this book at all. I just feel like the two main characters' connection was purely physical. That's it. I honestly just don't think they liked each other. Like, I actually feel like they hated each other because they started off as rivals, but you never really got like a background into why they were rivals, and they just kind of started being friends out of nowhere. I didn't like it. And honestly, okay, it follows Nora, who works in publishing, and Charlie, which is her rival, who also works in publishing, and she goes on a trip to a small town that a large book that she was a publisher in is set in with her sister, and Charlie is also there, and literally that's it. Like, there's really not a plot to the story. I feel like it focused a lot more on her sister than her and the main character, which I didn't enjoy. I know a lot of people love Emily Henry, and I understand why people would love her, but she's just like not my absolute favorite author. However, I loved Beach Read, and then the next book that I am going to talk about is her new release, which is Funny Story. I actually ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is my second favorite of the books Emily Henry has written. First, we'll go to Beach Read, of course. I am going to make a bold statement. I think that Funny Story was for the beach read and people we meet on vacation lovers, and not for the book lovers and Happy Place lovers, because the people I know that love Happy Place and book lovers did not enjoy this like a lot. However, the people I know that enjoy People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read loved this book, and I am one of those people. If you don't know what Emily Henry's new book is about, there's 4 characters: Daphne, Miles, Peter, Petra. Daphne and Peter are engaged, and Miles and Petra are dating. Peter and Petra are best friends, and they actually end up cheating on Daphne and Miles with each other, and Peter comes home and calls off the wedding and is with Petra, and Daphne actually ends up moving in with Miles because she has to leave her house because she lives with Peter. So I hope that made sense. It's messy from the beginning. Miles, I just think, is one of Emily Henry's most relatable characters. People like are describing him as like a lowlife kind of, but he was just heartbroken. I mean, he's still working his jobs, he smokes a little weed, whatever, you know what I mean? I just feel like the connection with these two was such a good slow burn, and you actually got to get a feel of their friendship in the beginning, and I didn't get that with book lovers. It like went straight into just them liking each other after they've been enemies for how long, and you got like nothing of their friendship. They just started a physical connection. Did not like it. This I think had a lot more depth in it, and I just really like the messiness of this one. I don't know, Emily Henry knew what she was doing with this one, and this is my second favorite of hers, and I really enjoyed it. I know it wasn't a lot of people's favorites, but it was mine, other than Beach Read. I loved it. Oh no, I was gonna put all my books stacked whenever I was done talking about them. I'm gonna do that now. We're gonna pretend I was doing that the whole entire time. Okay, the last book of April was actually a big disappointment. I read One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and I landed on a 3-star. I think I just had such high expectations going into this book because it is so hyped up on every single book platform. I was just bored. I was really bored. I like the like little subplot of romance because it's very slow burn, but other than that, the concept I enjoyed, but I was also just bored. Like, I just felt like nothing was really happening, or maybe I just didn't like what was happening. I don't know. I was just bored. I remember reading it and just being like, okay, get through this chapter, then you can pick up your phone. And I know I'm bored whenever that's starting to happen to me. If you don't know what this is about, it follows Elspeth, which she actually has this voice in her head. We know that straight from the beginning. That's with her all the time. She was infected with this dark magic whenever she was younger, and usually people are killed who are infected with it, but her dad was actually head of killing the people, so he kept her protected. And it also is like, has a lot to do with cards, which reminds me of tarot cards, and that's their magic system. And they're trying to collect all of the magic cards, and it's just boring. Honestly, I was expecting a lot more. I'm hoping maybe I like the second one more. I feel like people do like the second one more, but I just feel like it wasn't really for me. And I was really excited because the tarot card magic of it really interested me, but it just wasn't my favorite. And you're not gonna like every single book you read, but I usually am like into the hyped books on TikTok, booktube, bookstagram, all of that. But this one just missed the mark for me. I was bored. It wasn't a bad book. 3 isn't a bad rating. It's not something I'm ever gonna think about again, I feel like. So yeah, those are the 7 books I read in the month of April. It was kind of all over the place. I had some really good reads, but also some really bad reads. But I still have a few more new releases that I want to read in the month of May. I already bought Powerful by Lauren Roberts. I have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I'm just hoping I start to have a little bit better reads, because the last few that I read, other than Funny Story, I guess just One Dark Window and Book Lovers, I just really didn't enjoy. But overall, it was a pretty average reading month. There were some good ones, there were some bad ones, but yeah. If you guys enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And let me know what I should read next in the month of May, because I have so many books on my TBR and it's getting hard to choose. It is getting so hard to choose. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching.